North Central traveling down to Rock Island and coming back with a victory over the Vikings, 48-10 the final. Head coach of the Cardinals, Jeff Thorne, on to talk about that. We'll also get to his coaching staff and how all of them happen to be former players. We'll have all that and more next on the Red Zone.
The presenting sponsor of the Red Zone is Athletico, the preferred provider of physical therapy and athletic training for North Central College.
Welcome into the Red Zone. And Coach, a big win down in Augustana, and we always talk about bounce back wins responses, how your team responds to adversity. Obviously, coming off a loss, you wanted to see that response. How did you feel like they did in that game against Augustana?
I didn't like how we started the game. Offensively, we started really well. Defensively, we were a little bit slow to get going. But overall, the response was what we expected, and I'm very, very pleased. 48-10 victory in Rock Island. That's a tough place to play. I thought our guys responded very, very well to the disappointment from a week prior.
The offense was moving the football. I think something like 500-plus yards of total offense in this game, and a large portion of it went to Michael Svikas. So 14 catches, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has written his name in the record book in a few different spots. Did you feel like that was a record-breaking performance as it was going on?
Had no idea, honestly. But he and Brock have such a great feel for one another and the timing routes and the things that we like to do in the passing game. They've spent a lot of time working hard in the offseason on that timing, and you're starting to see it play out in games. And Mike has the best set of hands. I've said this before on set, but he is a terrific receiver. He's really developed year after year after year. So I'm really excited to see him playing the way that he is.
We got to chat with him and kind of figure out his journey a few weeks ago, and it's interesting, and I'm sure you've seen him evolve, but just kind of his journey from being a kicker to being a relied upon receiver to now maybe even the focal point of the offense in the passing game. It's pretty special. It's pretty unique. Would you say the same?
Oh, there's no question, but that's what you hope for when you have young guys come into your program, that they develop as human beings, far more important than as a football player. We've seen both sides of it with Mike, which is what makes it so rewarding. Mike had some stuff happen in high school that was tough. A really good friend of his passed away, and dealing with that was really difficult for him through high school, and then even his freshman and sophomore years at North Central. So to see him continue to make progress towards becoming a really responsible, he's going to be a great husband. He's already a father, which is the first time in our program's history, and it's really neat watching him interact with his girlfriend and his little boy.
It's pretty amazing too.
Yeah, it is.
Do you prop up somebody like a Michael Svikas when you bring in recruits and say, look, you know, this guy wasn't a heralded recruit. We weren't celebrating. I mean, obviously everybody that comes in you're excited about, but if you work hard enough and you're put in a position, you put yourself in a position, you can succeed in this program.
Yeah, you know, I think player development is really, really important, especially at our level, because we're not getting blue chip players. They're going to the Alabamas, they're going to the big schools and scholarship programs. So we've got to really be mindful of how do we develop our players in all areas of their life, and really football being the least important of those. And we spend a lot of time on that, and we explain that in recruiting and why that's important. But when you can point to a young guy's evolution as a player as well, to a young kid that wants to be a good football player, I think speaks volumes about your program. You know, you look at our baseball program and what Coach Matthew and Coach Heller have done. Here we have a guy that's drafted in the Major League Draft. North Central at North Central Athletics Matter, and our administration does such a great job of supporting us and providing us with resources to develop our players in all areas.
We digress.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the game. Cam Moore. We've seen his ability this season on the football field doing a variety of roles, whether it's carrying the ball out of the jet sweep, for instance. But in this game, he gets his first touchdown catch, and he seemed a little excited about that. Is that a sign of things to come for him? I
think so. I think he had a great game Saturday, not just the touchdown, but he had some catches where simple hitch routes or out routes, he catches the ball and turns upfield, and you get an idea of how hard he is to tackle. He's big, thick, and really strong, particularly from the waist down. I think that's a huge springboard for Cam.
Now in the running game, you kind of return to Dom Muoghalu, who I didn't realize this set a record during the St. John's game for most carries in a game. I don't know if I just forgot that. It's unbelievable. But a ton of carries for Dom. He produced 80 yards, 2 touchdowns. Was it nice to see that running game get going?
You know, I wish we'd have run the ball a little bit better. That's one of the areas we want to look at this week. Dom was terrific with his carries. He did a great job breaking tackles, converting first downs when we needed them, and that's really been his calling card. And I think that's going to continue to evolve and really grow into a larger role for Dom.
Now, the defense gave up 350 yards of offense, but it's kind of that bend, don't break mentality. Right. How do you instill that into a unit to, you may have given up chunk yardage, but that's it. We're going to hold them here. Yeah,
there were a few plays that got away from us a little bit, a couple missed assignments and just putting our eyes again in the wrong spot. But when you hold a team to 2 of 15 on third down, that's pretty good. So our third down defense and our red zone defense was terrific. We got the 1 turnover down in the red zone there in the second half by Alec Wolf. So I was happy with what we saw from our defense. A lot of the things we worked hard on last week, we saw in the game. And we're going to want to see that again this week.
This Viking team was pretty legitimate. That offense can move the football. That quarterback was pretty good. You pretty pleased with the way that you held them to 10 points?
Absolutely. Yeah. I thought it was a good defensive performance. People are going to want to see North Central shutting people out. Yeah. The game has changed. It's a very, very difficult task to shut a team out with all of the RPOs, and it's more of an offensive game right now. You're seeing that in the NFL with rules changes. So, if we win the game, at the end of the day, I want to win the game. Yeah. And we won. So there were positives. There's always going to be things that we can get better at, and we're focusing on those things as well.
We're going to close the book on this Augustana game, but then we're going to shift the focus to Carroll as well.
Sounds good.
We're going to be right back. We'll have Check the Tape next on the Red Zone.
This Red Zone segment is brought to you by Arena Americas, specialists in providing full-service rental solutions for events and special occasions of all sizes.
Welcome back, and now it's time to check the tape. And, Coach, I want to get to the run game first. And we alluded to this, but Dom Muoghalu shaking off tackles, and this was early on in the game. I think this was actually the first drive. And he handed off to him. It looked like he was stopped for maybe a 1 or 2 yard gain, and boom.
Yeah, a little trap play we ran there. Dom bounces it, finds some space, and then puts the hammer down. Broke a couple tackles like he normally does. But, as I told you off tape, this is vintage Dom Muoghalu. And we've come to expect this from him. You're not going to tackle him with the first guy most of the time. It's going to take more than one. And that's the hallmark of a good running back.
How special is it to have a guy that you can trust in short yardage situations that can also do something like that?
That's really valuable. It really is. Dom's value goes so far beyond, being a running back and short yardage and those things. He's been such a great mentor to our younger running backs. He's one of the most unselfish people you're ever going to meet, constantly smiling. It lights up a room. So he's just one of those guys that you want to have around and you like to be around. Yeah. So his value really goes so far beyond football.
Now here's another play that we talked about in that first segment, and it's the touchdown toss to Cam Moore. You picked out something interesting about this play that I didn't see, but it's the ability for him to catch this football. Yeah, that's a tough catch. It's a little bit behind him. Brock threw to where the space was. He saw that defender coming across, and it's a drill they work every day, just a simple distraction drill where you have to focus on the football and not the person who's crossing your face. So that was a great concentration by Cam. Really, really good catch for his first touchdown. And that's saying nothing about being able to fit that ball in a tight window for Brock, too. That throw did not have much margin for error. No, not at all. And that was in his progression. That's about his fourth option in the progression. So it just, again, speaks to his savvy. I feel like you say that every week. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, we're blessed. We're pretty fortunate. Last play, in not so much focusing on Brock here, but the tandem aspect of this, because he and Svikas have developed such an incredible relationship on the football field that it just seems like they're always on the same page.
Spend a lot of time throwing the football together. They're very, very close friends. This is just a timing route, though, and Brock throws this thing before Mike has broken, and there's that trust element that only comes with repetition and spending time together. So we're looking to see a lot more of that in our last 5 games that are guaranteed, and hopefully we get to play past that.
Now you get to return home this week. It's a 6 o'clock game, the last night game of the season, but it's going to be against Carroll. What exactly do the Pioneers present challenge-wise to you guys?
It's another team that's significantly improved from a year ago. They've got a huge offensive line. They're running a lot of power football and running the ball really effectively. They're second in the conference, I believe, in rushing yards per game. They've got a dynamic running back, and they've got one of the best receivers in the conference. So we'll have our hands full on defense. Defensively, playing a similar scheme to what they did a year ago, and they've got 8 starters back. So we expect them to give us everything that they've got.
Experience is a valuable thing. We were talking before we even hopped on set, but it just seems like the level of play in the conference has seen an uptick this year. There's less of a discrepancy between some of those middling programs than in years past. Have you noticed that? That it just seems like the general sense of play has increased?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit more parity in the league the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Milliken got a lot better last year. They're still playing good football this year. Carthage has steadily improved over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Wesleyan has been very solid, you know, for years, but they had some up and down years. They've been a little bit more consistent. Wheaton's Wheaton.
Yeah.
And we saw Augustana play much better football, I thought, Saturday than they have the last couple of years.
Coach, we'll get you out of here on this, the quick hit.
Yeah.
What is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Wow. You know, I think the best piece of advice I ever received was always make sure that you're asking other people how they are rather than being quick to tell people how you are. And that's helped in many situations.
Can I ask who instilled that?
Oh, my dad. Yeah, years and years ago.
Figured as much.
Yeah.
Coach, thanks for hopping on, and good luck against Carroll.
Thanks, Kevin.
We'll have a couple of Neuqua Valley guys hopping on set in a moment. We'll be right back on the Red Zone.
Listen, you're my friend.
I noticed you haven't really been yourself recently.
Yeah, I feel like something's up.
How are you?
Are you okay?
Is there anything you want to talk about?
I just want to know how you're feeling.
And listen, even if you don't know what to say, I'm here to talk.
No matter what you're going through,
I just want you to know I'm here.
I've got your back.
when you want to talk, I'm here.
Time for our play of the game. And to this point, the offense has claimed 3 out of the first 4 this season, but let's change that. Actually, freshman DB Alec Wolf will. Embodying the bend, don't break mentality, number 16 finds himself in the right spot and picks off the pass just as the Vikings were marching. It's his first interception, and it's also his first play of the game.
Welcome back into the Red Zone, and a couple of former Wildcats on the set. You guys ready to sing the fight song?
No.
Guys, great game against Augustana. Zach, we'll start with you. 9 tackles. You gave up some yardage, but you did not break. And that's one of the things I talked about with coaches, that bend, don't break mentality. Do you feel pretty good coming out of the game with that aspect?
Yeah, we feel good coming out with a win. 10 points is pretty good. Obviously, we could do better. There's always stuff to fix, and we'll learn from that. Thankfully, we came out with a win.
Yep.
And Coach touched on the bend, don't break mentality, and you know, we gave up some chunk plays. We gave up, you know, a couple first downs and all that. But at the end of the day, when they got in the red zone, we held the line and didn't let them in the end zone.
Now, you're in this unit with a bunch of veterans. So Pat Cravens has been there for 5 years. Sudsy has been there for, I think, 4. You've been there for 3.
Yep.
And it just seems like you guys gel pretty well. Is it fun playing alongside those guys?
It is fun. It's really fun when you get to know the guys real personally, because I mean, Sudsy can tell when I'm having a bad day. Pat can tell when I'm having a bad day. We can all tell when we're off or when we're really on, or when one of us is really energetic or whatnot, and we feed off each other and we can communicate really well between us. And then that trickles down to the younger guys, to communication and having fun and knowing each other really well.
Now it seems like the offense is gelling too. You obviously have a good rapport with Brock. And I mean, this offense is fun right now, and you have 8 rushing touchdowns. I know that's a good feeling. You may not be as concerned with the 8, but just the rushing touchdown aspect of it and being able to contribute to the team. How fun is that?
I love it, because I mean, like football is a sport I've been playing since I was a little kid, and I mean, like, I've suffered through a little bit of adversity, but being able to just join my teammates and have fun and score touchdowns on top of that, I mean, it's an awesome feeling to have. So
top 10 in program history now with career rushing numbers.
Yeah.
I pay attention to this stuff more than I think you do, but when I told you that, and when you hear that, what does that mean to you?
I mean, I could just thank God, because I mean, like, my journey's different. Like, you don't really see that, because I mean, like, I became a running back my freshman year in high school. I was on the offensive line. So I mean, like, learning everything as I'm going along and being able to perform as well as I do, like, all I can do is really thank God for that. So.
And now you're trying to share your knowledge. Last year it was Austin Brunig sharing with you, and you were just trying to pick his mind. Now it's reversed, and it was a quick flip. It wasn't like you just kind of gradually became a mentor. Now you're getting to mentor these freshmen back. How fun is that?
I love it, because I mean, like, those are like my brothers now. Like, coming in, like, I knew it was like the first thing, like, before anything else, I got to get them up to speed, because we're a running back by committee at North Central, and getting them up to speed, like, we really talked about things other than football, and that really brought us together. So I mean, like, whenever you see me and Greeny and Terrence and everybody else, I mean, I'm always laughing around, messing with them, making jokes and everything, and we got like our own handshakes and everything, so it's awesome. I love them.
Now, I mean, mentoring is not just on the offensive end, but the defensive end too, and you talked about this as well, communicating with the younger guys. You got 2 guys on the outside. You've played cornerback, so you know what they're going through. Beasley was a wide receiver last year. Braden was in high school. So what's it been like trying to bring those guys along?
Yeah. Well, just like explaining to them the difference between, you know, high school and, for Beasley, offense and defense. Just kind of the mindset they need to take to the corner position. Everything happens now at corner, whereas now I move back to safety. It's like it's still happening fast, but it's a little more slow. So they kind of play it like their hair's on fire every single second. But just being calm in the moment and just knowing what the offense is trying to do to you with where the receivers are lined up, you know, down in distance and all that. And we're working on that as a secondary every day. And they're coming along great. They're both going to be very, very good, and they're both good right now.
Yeah, Beasley's got 2 picks. Alec Wolf got his first interception of the season against Augustana. I'm sure you guys are focused on trying to get more turnovers. Has there been conversation around that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not only in the interception department, but the fumble department, forced fumbles. At practice, our focus is punching the ball, even on those scout players that our coaches tell them, hey, you might get punched, you know, just be prepared. And there's a swarm of defensive guys just pounding at the ball when we can.
That's always, I mean, hey, that's a big swing in the game if you can pull that off, too.
Absolutely. Helps out our offense, too.
Yeah. And going back to that side of the football, I mean, you guys are clicking on all cylinders. You're playing behind a quarterback that is setting the world on fire.
Yes.
Brock is completing 74% of his passes.
And it's crazy because it's like you wouldn't think anything less of it. Like, ever since I've been with Brock as a teammate, I mean, he's just been doing his thing, and it's like he'll do it so nonchalantly. He'll do it like it's a norm for him. So, like, because you see a lot of quarterbacks, when they have a great performance, like, you know, they'll be celebrating and stuff of that sort, but it's such a norm for him. Like, he's just like, okay, back to the drawing board. Who do we got next? And like, you could just see it in his eyes. Like, he's ready for whatever teams have to throw at him, and he's going to conquer it and just, I mean, get over whatever obstacle they try to set out for him. So,
ready for the quick hits?
Yeah.
Zach, we'll start with you. What is your worst haircut ever?
So, growing up until probably around 8 or 9, my mom just, you know, bowl cut. It's simple, and I guess she liked the look, but
Dom's dying over here.
You know, I had really blonde hair when I was a kid, and the bowl cut, and I don't know what she was thinking, but that's all my little kid pictures of me with the bowl cut.
Sorry, Mrs. Greenberg. Dom, how about you?
I mean, the worst haircut I got was one that I gave myself. You know, you sit in the barber chair.
You gave yourself a haircut?
Yeah, because you sit in the barber chair and you see the barbers are just, like, they can be on their phones while they're lining somebody up of that sort. So I'm like, it can't be that hard. So I took some of my dad's clippers and I tried to give myself a little bit of, like, lines in my head. I ended up just shaving half my head, and then I tried to, like, even it out, and it was just all bad. My lining was like a rainbow, and it was just, My mom was not happy, so I went bald for that amount of time. So,
what age was that?
I feel like it was like and it wasn't like super young. I think I was like 12. So
I was waiting for like a year ago.
No. I would never do that to myself. I definitely learned my lesson.
You learned.
Yeah, never again. Never again.
Don, we'll start with you for this one. What's the best piece of advice you ever got, aside from don't shave your own head?
Yes. My mom always tells me to this day, just keep God in your heart and everything will fall into place. That really helps me, especially with the tough times, whether it be like if I feel like I'm not performing well enough in football or if I feel like I'm falling a little bit behind in school, just knowing that God has my back through thick and thin, it kind of just calms me down and lets me know like a reassurance that everything is going to be okay.
Cool. So. Zach, how about you?
I'd say just having fun and enjoying what you're doing all the time. Don't get involved with something that you don't enjoy because it's, the time's going to seem like you're there for double time.
Yeah.
And, everything just drags on and you have negative energy and that spills into other parts of your life. So if you're enjoying everything you're doing, pushing yourself, having positive energy, things are going to click your way and just go right for you.
So we attribute that to your mom so we make up for blaming her for the bad haircut?
Yeah.
We'll go with that. We'll get you out of here, and this is the last one. Zach, we'll start with you. What is your most used emoji?
My most used emoji is the flexing arm. Just whenever I text a teammate or former football player of mine, I throw that in there somewhere.
Just because.
Yeah.
Nice. Dom?
Definitely the laughing emoji with the tears in it. Yep. Just because like anyone who knows me, I love to laugh, I love to smile, just being happy. And I mean like I have a group chat with my brothers and we just throw all like memes and jokes and all that stuff in there. So I mean, I just laugh all the time. So that's really what it is.
That fits both of you.
Yeah.
Pretty appropriate. Guys, thanks for hopping on. We appreciate it. And good luck against Carroll.
Thank you very much.
Coming up next, we'll go to the Cardinal Corner. We'll be right back on the Red Zone.
This Red Zone segment is sponsored by Belgio's Catering.
The year was 2004. Brad Spencer, a distinguished North Central wide receiver, had graduated a year earlier. But he was still in the Cardinals building, not as a player, but as a coach.
Felt like something had started with our group of seniors, and I wanted to be a part of that and continued to have a hand in what was going on and what Coach Thorne was doing, at the time.
It was 2 years into the John Thorne era. The team had just recorded its first 7-win season since 1982, the beginning of a new trend, winning, but also another, former players becoming NCC coaches.
I was in his office often throughout the week watching film, talking football, talking about the leadership of the team as a captain and what our group needed to do to continue to progress the program.
10 years later, and another program great, Shane Durkin, graduates. Fast forward to 2018, and the Cardinals' all-time leader in picks, now the defensive coordinator. But past glory isn't what brought him back to Benedetti Worley Stadium.
Everybody's in it for the students and the student athletes. So that's really, really important to me and the rest of the coaching staff. So when, they came calling, that was one of the things that, really drew me to come back to North Central.
Former players on staff now, along with Spencer and Durkin, Tim Janicek, Greg Whalen, Dylan Worden, and Liam Crotty, not to mention GA's Joe Fairley and Amante Logan.
This is a special, special place that really cares about the students, cares about the athletes, and it's just got such an environment that it's a family environment. So that's what draws people.
It speaks to the institution, it speaks to our administrators, it speaks to the faculty, it speaks to everybody here that North Central is a unique place, it is a unique family, it's certainly in a unique town with unique opportunities.
The campus, the people, the buildings, the town, it attracts not only former Cardinals, but prospective Cardinals too.
It's a strong statement to recruits and to families that we're recruiting that there is a strong following, there is a culture here, and there's a belief in what is going on.
For this week's Cardinal Corner, I'm Kevin Jackman.
Welcome back into the Red Zone, and to close out the show, Sports Information Director Clark Teuscher. Thanks for hopping on, and let's get right to it. Men's soccer is just steamrolling through conference right now. They are doing phenomenally, and it's reflecting in the regional rankings. This team is now suddenly respected in the Midwest region.
Yeah, I mean, in the last couple of years, they've kind of bounced around, getting in and out of those rankings. They're up to number 7 this week, which is as high as they've been in a while. Big 4-1 victory over Carroll on the road on Saturday, which was, all due respect to Carroll, they are struggling this year. So that's the kind of performance that you would expect a team that's bound for the postseason to put up. So 3-1 in the conference now, a couple of weeks left to try and solidify the postseason. And in a position to possibly play at home for at least part of their conference tournament. So we're definitely excited to see that kind of progression with a lot of the same guys that were on the team last year.
Now, speaking of getting the job done, is the women's team. They're coming off a big win. And what is the direction of this team right now as they go into the back half of the schedule?
Well, that was good to see because they had been in a bit of a tailspin. Things hadn't gone real well competitively. Wound up getting the beneficiary of an own goal near the end of the game at Carroll to get it into overtime. And really, with their goal that they scored in overtime to win it, both of those plays were kind of the same thing. You're sending a lot of people into the box, trying to create confusion among the defense. One time it went off of one of their players, one time it went off of one of ours. But that's how it goes in soccer, and they were able to get the win. First conference win this year. There's still enough time to kind of right the ship a little bit after a bit of a rough patch for them.
And again, same thing for that team as well. They've played some of the better teams in conference in the front half of the schedule, so you never know what could happen.
Yeah, with a young team, they just keep building upon that experience and trying to capitalize on what they've learned, and they've still got a chance to accomplish some of the goals that they had set for themselves back in August.
I think it's safe to say one of the goals for the men's cross country team is the one that they have every single year, winning nationals, and they're on their way. It certainly seems that way, and they've recently had one of the performers recognized for his performance as well.
Yeah, Zach Hurd was the conference runner of the week after winning the Benedictine Invitational over the week, passed on Friday actually. Led the team. We didn't have a ton of the top guys in that race, still managed to win the team competition. Zach was held out of the meet in Louisville last week, more of a maintenance measure than anything. Those are the kind of decisions that the coaches are making constantly throughout the season for every different guys, is what do you need to do to get them to championship season at the best that they can be. And for Zach, it was resting last week and racing this week. So certainly it looks like it's working out.
It's quite a luxury to have, isn't it?
Yeah, which guys are we going to put on the line to win this week? Which guys are we going to save to win next week? It's just it's a great problem to have.
And this women's team, they're performing fantastically as well. This is one of the best teams we've seen in the last maybe almost decade, right?
Yeah, I mean they're certainly getting up to that point. They'll move up to number 23 in the national rankings this week, number 4 in the region. As we've talked about before, if you can get into the top 4 or 5 at the regional championship, you stand a pretty decent chance at getting an at-large bid to the nationals. Which would be a significant accomplishment for this program. They haven't been there in a couple of years. Diane Barajas continues to run at or near the front of every single race that she's in. She won at Benedictine on Friday as well. It's, again, for them, it's going to be a matter of getting everybody to the starting line at the conference and regional meets healthy.
Yep. Now, we talk about athletic teams a lot when you're on the set, and obviously because, the sports information director, but we don't talk about your team as often. You guys are doing some pretty cool things, and I know you're trying to continue to build on that. What exactly are you guys aiming to do?
Well, several years ago, we instituted a weekly feature series called the Cardinal Close-Up, which focuses on, the on-campus involvement, academic accomplishments, community service type of things, just kind of the distinctive stories that our student athletes have to tell. And they're not always the ones that we feature heavily in the results and the box scores. Last year we instituted a video element of that. And this year, we're still doing that on a weekly basis, and we're also trying to find other opportunities to tell those stories a little bit.
We'll get you out of here on this, their quick hit, and we usually go pretty funny, but this is actually kind of a more serious one. What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Trust your instincts. There's any number of, especially if you work in a job that's public, there's any number of people who will decide that they can tell you how to do it or how not to do it, and typically your own intuition is the one that winds up being the best idea, and that's something that I'm fortunate to be in a position to put undergraduate students, graduate students in positions where they can make decisions and work creatively and follow their instincts. And that's one of the things that I really have to hammer home with them is, don't second guess yourself. Trust your instinct. Your first instinct is probably the right one. Stick with it. So I think that's probably the best one that I continue to fall back on every day.
It's the old adage, never change your answer on a test. Go with the
That's
first one.
absolutely. First instinct. Yep.
Clark, thanks for hopping on. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of The Red Zone. Carroll comes to town. It's a 6 o'clock kickoff. We hope you join us on NCTV 17 for the broadcast. I'm Kevin Jackman. Thank you so much for tuning in.